I'm Crimson Goddess, and today I wanted to try something a bit different from what I usually do. See, I'm a fan of big, kinda tacky earrings, but I'm also a huge nerd, and sometimes it's really hard to find earrings that I like that represent my fandoms. A while back, I started making them myself with shrink plastic, and it's really fun, so today I'm going to show you how to do it. I will warn that these don't last forever. Some of mine are really old and you can see how they've begun to fade or smudge with wear, but they're also several years old now, and I'm not very gentle with my jewelry in all honesty. Something I've started doing more recently is sealing them to try and protect the drawings, and you can get really creative with that. I've even used a coat of glitter paint on top of a few keychains to give them some sparkle. To get started, you're going to need the following materials: jump rings, earring hooks, a hole puncher, something to cut with. I use scissors, but you can also use an X-Acto knife for more details or accuracy. Pliers, a paper with your designs, shrink plastic. I get mine off Amazon in a set of like 50 sheets, and that tends to last me a while, as well as whatever you want to color with. I use both Sharpies and watercolor pencils in this video to show the difference, though I've begun to enjoy the pencils more because they don't bleed and retain their brightness. Another helpful item is a swatch sheet. Every brand I've tried has shrunk differently, so I draw 1-inch markers to see how much it shrinks, as well as swatching my markers because the color they go on and the color they come out in the end are very rarely the same. Pencils produce a more accurate color, so I didn't feel the need to swatch those the same way. All you need to do is place your shrink plastic down on your design and get tracing. You want to place the glossy side of the plastic down so you're drawing on the texture. Also remember that this will flip the image, so if you want it to be facing a certain way, your reference needs to be facing the opposite way. I also recommend taping your plastic to your paper so that it doesn't slide around while you're trying to trace. For the Lily Carnation set, I'm doing it entirely pencil. It's also the only set that I don't take off the design to color, since the lines inside the petals aren't actually outlines, they're just markers for me where the colors go. I end up doing the second one of these off camera because I'm not used to trying to work on crafts on camera. My space is usually messy and I move it around a lot, but I was trying to keep it nice and centered for the video. When using the pencils, I kind of buff it in to get a nice even finish. Once it's off the paper, I check for missing spots and touch it up a bit. I will warn though that sometimes the pencils pick up each other's pigments and smear a bit. I'm usually more careful about it, but like I said, I was struggling with the setup. It's just something to keep in mind. For Puck, I decided to just do the outline, so I do him in pencil as well. Next up is the Spade Pirates Jolly Roger, which I'm going to do the outline in pencil but then come back to in marker just to show how that looks. I find that the pencil produces crisper and more controlled lines. The Sharpies I use tend to bleed a bit and the lines get fuzzy, so even when coloring in marker, I'd recommend outlining in pencil, especially if it's something super detailed or small. Putting your design on the plastic, be careful to keep your hand off of it as much as possible. You'll see me adjust several times to try and stop myself from smudging everything. I'm not exactly successful. Moving on to the Kid Pirates Jolly Roger, I do this entire one in marker. I also totally mess up his goggles, but that's, not super noticeable. The inner squares are supposed to be purple, but I went on autopilot and filled them in black. I make the most mistakes on these with the marker lines touching each other. The other nice thing about the pencils is they're a much finer point and a bit easier to control. I've just realized this video is becoming like pencil propaganda or something. Use whatever you want, it's fun no matter what. Last is Deedlit, who is so intricate, I'm just making her into a keychain because I don't want to have to draw her twice. I forgot to flip the image for her, so I'm just committing to the bit later and displaying the frosted side out. I may eventually remake her facing the right way to put on a bookmark or something though, I'm not sure yet. I don't do any color for her either, so I decided to try a different brand of pencil, switching from Prismacolor to Crayola. It ended up producing the same result for the outline, though I haven't tried any colors yet to see if those react differently. I ended up going back in after cutting the video and retouching a few spots on her, but still ended up leaving a few areas a bit patchy. Honestly, these get small enough that unless you've got some huge chunk missing, no one's ever gonna notice unless they get really close. With all the outlines done, I flip my page over and get to coloring. Starting with the marker ones, I pre-selected my colors off screen using my little swatch sheet as a guide. Hey, heads up, markers take a moment to dry, so flipping it over seconds after coloring it to try and get a smudge off the front, leaving a red imprint on the sheet, isn't recommended. I mean, you're welcome to do it, I can't stop you, but you'll just have to touch up the spot, and now you have a splotch on what was originally your nice white background, and the smudge didn't come off. The splotch kinda looked like a heart, so I drew over it. It didn't really help, but I wasn't getting a new sheet of paper. That was kind of a waste of paper. Heads up, for the marker and pencil outline, it can have the same problem as the pencil and pencil, which is the markers just grabbing the pencil and smearing them. Marker and marker is by far the easiest. Beyond my yellow marker, which just likes to smudge everything under the sun, you can be the least careful and still get a clean result. Once everything is all colored in, you're going to get to hole punching and cutting them out. You can put the spot for the jump ring wherever you want really. I usually put mine as centered as I can on the top just because I'm doing little symbols, but I've seen some really dynamic ones. The sky's the limit here with creativity. The plastic sometimes tries to break while cutting it. The best advice I can give you is to go slow and leave a bigger border than you want at first. You can always trim it down more. If it starts to break, just back off and come at it from a different angle. So long as it doesn't tear too badly, it won't be super apparent after baking, so just try to preserve your design above all else. Into the oven we go. A lot of people do this with a heat gun. I don't have a heat gun. I set my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. That's just the default for my oven, and it does the job. Once it's up to temp, you can put your earrings on a parchment-lined tray and pop them in. Every set took a different amount of time, but they're all pretty quick. You just kind of want to keep an eye on them. I opened the oven for you for a minute with deedlit so you can see what it looks like. It's kinda scary, but it'll flatten out with time. Every now and then they don't flatten, so I just take a pair of chopsticks and gently force it into straightening out while it's hot. I've only ever had one design curl up so badly it ruined itself. It got stuck to itself and pulling it apart just ruined the marker. Oh, also make sure that you place them glossy side down. Basically every step of the way you want them glossy side down. Glossy side up just causes the plastic to bubble up a lot. I don't have it anymore, but I messed up on some Deltarune earrings forever ago and we joked that they were carbonated. I couldn't capture it on video because you have to do it pretty quickly, but once they come out of the oven, I'm taking them off the tray just by pulling the entire parchment sheet off and gently pressing them down to make sure they're fully flat before they cool. We're in the home stretch now, and it's the easiest part. To start, I'm turning Deed into a keychain, so I have my pliers, jump rings, and a keychain clasp thing. I don't actually know what these are called. And all you do is open that jump ring and slide both the clasp and the plastic onto it, and then close it. Make sure it's nice and tight so nothing slips out, and you're done! For the rest of these, I'm going to paint the backs. At first, this won't look like it does much, but at the end you'll see the difference it can make. It's totally optional, but mostly it just helps them stand out against dark backgrounds, since unless they're painted, they're a bit transparent, and I have really dark hair, so they tend to get lost in there a bit. I usually do this with model paint, but this time, both because it's more common and because I'm almost out of white model paint, I'm just using some acrylic paint. It works just as well. I leave one unpainted until the end to try and show the difference, but it's not super apparent on camera. I end up doing 2 to 3 coats of this, doing them kind of thin to try and keep them from getting gloopy or streaky. Just be careful with it, especially on the pencil ones, it'll sometimes smear them a bit. I've only had the issue twice, but it did absolutely ruin a tiny Bronco keychain I was working on by making the whole thing blue. Come to think of it, the other one that smeared was a Devil May Cry Yamato pin that was blue marker. Maybe blue just has something against me. Either way, I kind of blotted onto the Lily Carnation earrings at first instead of swiping, just to be safe. Once those are dry, the last thing you have to do is put the hooks on them, and it's the same as the keychain where you just open a jump ring and slide both pieces in before closing it. Make sure that when laying flat, the hooks face opposite ways. This will help both earrings in your set face outwards. Sometimes I add an extra jump ring between the hook and the earrings, so hook 2 rings earring, to help it dangle a little better or face the direction I want. Every now and then I make a chain to do long earrings. Basically, every aspect of this entire process is customizable to whatever you want. I've even seen people curl the plastic on purpose to make rings. The beauty of your creativity is you're the only one who can put a limit on it, so truly just go forth and make whatever your heart wants. I show it off here, but you can just barely see that the marker lines are a bit fuzzier, which is why I prefer the pencils, but also as you can see, it truly isn't a big deal. Same for the brightness. You can see the Kid Pirates and Spade Pirates got a lot darker, but the Lily Carnation largely kept its bright colors, but so long as you're expecting it, it's not a big issue. It doesn't make them look bad and is easy to work around. And if you're wondering where the puck earrings went, I wound up doing them off camera because I wanted to wear them to an event before I finished working on the rest of the earrings. I painted the backs of them a different color using an off-white that shows up kind of brownish yellow depending on the light of the camera. I mostly read digital manga now, but I grew up on copies from the library where the pages weren't crisp white to begin with and yellowed over time. I know the yellowing is something people avoid, but it's weirdly nostalgic for me and I wanted to capture that on these. In this final shot, you can see a bit more clearly why I painted the backs. I didn't paint Deedlit, so she stands out the least against the black background. And that's all there is to it. It's fairly cheap. Most of the materials are either a one-time purchase if you don't already have them on hand, or can be bought in bulk for low prices that will last you a while. I hope you enjoyed this and that it inspires you to go make art of your own. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.